In this video, we want to go through the process of creating a new project and then cleaning that project of all of the original starter code. So let's get started. We're going to create a new application. This is going to be a .NET MAUI application. We are going to call this demo application. Going to place it in the default source location and hit next. Leave it at 9 and go ahead and create the actual solution file. At this point, we have our solution. If we would go ahead and run it, we would see that templated application that is intended for starting purposes to give us an idea of some of the controls that we can use. But we really want to go ahead and remove that from our project to get a clean starting point for continuing and building an application. We're going to do that by opening our main page.xaml. We can always click the down arrow next to it. This is going to give us our XAML and then its associated code related to the XAML. Both of these elements together at runtime are going to build the main page class. So this is a partial class, and then the XAML at runtime, they are built together to create this main page class, and this is going to be placed for organization purposes in the demo application, and we'll get into some of that later on. Now in our case, we want to remove some of this code here. We also want to remove some of the starting elements within our page, and I'm going to go ahead and just close this down here. You can always bring those things back, and I'm going to pin these so we have more space. At this point, we have a scroll view. We have a vertical stack layout, and we have all of our elements. We want to remove everything. For our initial application, so what we'll be doing, we're not going to be placing so many elements in our design window that we would need a scroll view. We're going to remove everything. But if we wanted to only remove our vertical stack layout, we could click on that down arrow and then highlight this and delete everything there. In our case, we want to delete everything, so we're just going to highlight it. After we collapse that, this is the easiest way, so we don't have to look at where we have our starting tag and then go down to the bottom and find our ending tag. If we collapse that region, it's essentially going to allow us to just highlight that section, and we can hit the delete key. The easiest way to do that. So I'm going to bring back my Solution Explorer here and switch to the main page.xaml and then make it go away again. Now in this case, if I go to build this right now, it's not going to run. So let's go ahead and build our solution. We can see our build starting and the build failed. We have counter button does not exist. Well, we removed the XAML that was for that counter button, and we no longer see that. We have red squigglies also that are indicating that we have errors. So there is some visual alerting that there are some problems in this code. Now, how do we remove this code? Because obviously this method was tied to the event handler, that on button clicked event handler that was for that button in that templated application. Well, again, instead of like trying to track through and figure out which curly brace to go through and stuff, we can use our down arrow on that method, highlight the whole line, and click delete. And that's going to make sure that we get rid of that. Now, our code would compile at this point, but we have a variable that's defined that's not being used anywhere. And for our intentions going forward, we're not going to need a counter. So we want to make sure that we clean that out as well, because we don't want junk left in our solution that we're creating here. So we're going to go ahead and build this now. Should build clean. We want to make sure that it's going to be a clean build before we continue with our next step in the next video. And finally, we see that the build has succeeded.